it's Daniel Mitchell down here with Mitchell's Plumbing. We're back down here in the Dungeon Studios with the Plum Delusional podcast today. I've got one of the area's leading spray foam technicians down here with me. He owns Hometown Spray Foam. Matt, you want to introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Mac Waters, and like you said, I own Hometown Spray Foam, and I do a lot of work with Daniel and for Daniel, and it's a pleasure being here. I've watched your podcast a lot.
Well, thank you. We're glad to have you. The first thing people are going to ask, is it worth the extra money to put spray foam in your house? I know that's what the burning question is.
So let me ask you this, because I get them every day. People that have brand new homes and they put their thermostat on 70 and they walk through their living room and look at the thermostat, it's showing 77 to 78 degrees in the house. So once we put that spray foam in, that HVAC system works a lot less and your temperature will be where it's supposed to be. So what that spray foam does is we cut off all the air penetrations. So all of your heat and all of your cooling escapes through those rafters. And when you walk into most attics, you look and they just got that little blown in insulation on the ground. So they didn't address where the heat and the air is leaving from. So our customers save an average of 40 to 50%, and that's no exaggeration. That's statistics across the nation when spray foam is done correctly on their energy bills. So if saving money on your energy bills and having your home regulated where you want it to be without your HVAC system having to fight every day to keep up, if that's important to you, then definitely worth it across the board.
Yeah, and I mean, we was talking about this before we started the podcast, is a lot of times people have the thought that it's so much more than batted insulation. They ain't no need in pricing it. But I mean, you was talking about it. You've got a couple of options to go with. That's really not that much difference. There's a little bit cost more, but I think for the advantage you get, it's like, it's like buying cars. You want the good one or you want the one that's going to last you a year.
Exactly. You can go out and get certain brands of cars and when you hit 100,000 miles, that car is going to break down and you're going to have issues. Where if you go get Toyota product,
they're a good product.
Because I was in the car business for a long time, and I had guys trading in their Toyotas that had 500,000 miles on the.
I got one sitting right out there. It's got 300,000 on it.
Yeah. So once you put this spray foam in, it changes the whole atmosphere of your home, and it makes a cleaner environment. When you walk in your attic, you don't have to worry about moldy, mildewed, bat insulation, because once you put that bat insulation in your house, go back a year later and just look at it and you'll start seeing dark spots.
Yeah.
And that's just breakdown. The foam, if you're spraying it properly, it's going to last you a lifetime. And most of your foams out there that are quality foams are going to give you at least 30 years guarantee, but ours is a lifetime guarantee. We go with the best high quality foam. And besides saving you money, you can get tax breaks on it at the end of the year. And so,
there's a lot of efficiency tax breaks out there. I do that. It's like going with better windows and better doors and stuff like that. There's a lot of tax breaks. Now, when we, as plumbers, when we go in and do plumbing, our pipes are usually in the walls and they get sprayed.
Right.
And I've been in classes and I know the answer to this, and I think I know the answer to this, but some of the plumbers in there as well, that spray foam eats your pipes.
Okay.
And I don't think so. But have you ever heard of that?
Well, you got to think about take a styrofoam cup, for example. You got that little bit of foam right there, and you got scalding hot coffee. And that little bitty thin layer of foam keeps you from being burned. Mm-hmm. Set that styrofoam on a pipe for 2 years. You think it's going to do anything to it?
No.
Spray foam doesn't either. Matter of fact, what it does is it protects it.
Yeah.
Because you're cutting off all the oxygen. There's going to be no oxidation to it. And so you're actually, imagine people when they used to do mummification in Egypt. It's sort of like that. Once you put that spray foam to that plumbing, it protects it from the elements. So it's not eating up the plumbing. It's not rotting the wood under the shingles because the home can't breathe. These are all just misconceptions.
Right.
And, and I I stake my reputation on that.
Well, that's one thing. That's one reason I started these podcasts, was kind of get people a platform to be able to speak on different things like this, because the guy we was in the continuing education class, when he said that, I was like, so you're telling me that foam eats copper and PEX piping, but when we insulate our pipes, we use foam insulation.
Yeah. I
said, I know it's going to stick to it. And if we go back and have to fix one, it's a little harder to clean it. But right. I mean, that's the given. But if you're going to have a leak, you're going to have a leak. But, foam's foam. It's not going to eat it. One foam ain't going to eat it if the other one's not, going to deteriorate it.
And you got to think over the past couple of decades, everything's just, a lot more efficient. All building supplies, it's just elevated. And foam has changed as well.
Yeah.
Foam is safe. You're not getting poisoned with off gas and, all these little rumors that go around. As long as you got a reputable company that can stand behind their product and get those ratios on correctly. And that's the biggest, part of it, choosing a company that knows what they're doing. My lead spray tech, he's a family member, Cody Bell, and he's worked for other companies. And he's been doing it for a long time, and he always gets it right. He's a perfectionist. If he ever misses something, we go right back out and fix it. And that's another thing, when you're choosing a company, you want a company that's going to be around for a long time,
right?
That actually has some morals and values, and their reputation is everything, just like yours is.
Right. So, that's what I tell people. We've been in business since '76.
Yep.
If we do something, you know where to find us. Mm-hmm. And Hometown Spray Foam may be a newer name.
Yep.
But you've been in this area your whole life. I mean, I know your dad. I know
right.
We was just talking about how much we know to each other's family and stuff like that. So it's not like you just showed up here one day. You was actually doing some other stuff with spray foam and decided it was time for you to put your legacy out there.
You're right. For years, I ran one of the franchises for the South for Spray Foam Genie, which is at the time was about the biggest in the nation.
And that's how we met.
The disadvantages to that was I always had to deal with a corporate company, and I always had a huge overhead. Any company that's a franchise, their overhead is a lot higher than your local guy. That's why I shop local every time that I can. Right. I support local business. But I got a lot of good experience. I got a lot of training, went around the U.S. doing training, learning about the products. And so, once I got tired of the fact that we were just having to put all of our profits and everything out to a corporate company, these guys set up north somewhere and hold their hand out. And, I couldn't really be as competitive as I wanted to. And, so I just formed my own LLC. I took the customers that we had built a reputation with, all the builders, and I said, hey, guys, I'm going and starting my own company, and this is why. Number one, I'm going to have a better quality foam that I can use. But number two, I'm going to have a lot less overhead. And so what I can do is I can pass that on to my customers. And not only that, but it's my name. It's my money on the line. It's my livelihood. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to make sure every job is done correctly.
And I can attest to that because like the house we just done in Cohutta, I was super upset because the guy wanted to go ahead and do the underneath. And he asked me if I would split it with him. And I said, well, let me talk to Mac and we'll see what comes up. And you told me, since we done the house, I'm just going to let you have it at cost. Yeah. And I be honest with you, I was surprised at the cost. I mean, it was a cheaper cost than I was expecting. I appreciate that. I have been meaning to tell you that, but it really, I think you have got your prices as affordable as you can. I mean, everybody's got to make a living, You
got to make a living, but I've already came to the conclusion, and I've got a couple businesses, but I've come to the conclusion I'm never going to be a rich man. I'm always going to be a hardworking man, and so I keep my profit margins razor thin. And by doing so, it really makes spray foam affordable to everybody. And where I stand out is, even on the little jobs that you'll have a lot of companies that come out and they'll tell somebody may have a shed that needs some spray foam and they'll have a minimum amount set to be able to come out and do that. With us, I don't do that. Matter of fact, there was a man the other day and he said, I got a little shed that needs to be done. And 2 or 3 people's already told me $3,000 just come out and do it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, give me $699 and we'll get it done for you. And we went out there and it pretty much paid for material and labor and we got it done. But guess what? Word of mouth is the best advertising you can get. So that man was satisfied. So I'm quite sure in the future we'll have his word of mouth advertising. And so that's kind of how we do things.
Yeah, my phone, I was getting an emergency text there. I usually don't try to take them on camera, but you know how it goes. That's one thing about business.
Yeah.
You've got to have a good drive, and you've got to have a good work ethic to go out on your own. And anybody that owns their own company, I commend them because I know how hard it is. And anytime you're working in a smaller area, small town, you have the tendency to have smaller profit margins, but you build relationships, as I say. I tell my guys all the time, I don't want, my company's grown this year substantially. And that's every company's goal is to grow and to make money. But I told my guys, I don't want to get so big that my customers don't get to see me or don't get, if they come in and want to talk to me or they've got a problem or their grandmother's got something going on and she's on a fixed income, they come in and talk to me and say, hey, Daniel, well, okay, we'll work on the budget, because people's got to have plumbing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't live in a house without plumbing and really you can't live in a house without good insulation because it'll break you. I mean, that's like the 3 best things and the 3 backbones of a house is the electrical, the insulation, plumbing, and you can live without HVAC. I don't want to right now in this heat, but you
can.
But
if you did, you'd be a lot better off if you had spray foam in the process.
You'd be able to cool it a lot easier with some stuff like that. But if you go ahead and get you a good insulation and stuff like that, your heating bills won't be as high. And I've seen people on Facebook lately talking about how high their energy bills has been.
Yep.
Well, it's probably because they're losing so much heat.
That's exactly what it is. And I'm big on those. I can go into a $2 million home just built, look in the attic, not even a year old, and people are calling me out. Mm-hmm. And I go up there and look, same thing. It's just some blown-in insulation in the floor. You walk in there, it's 120 degrees, and you can't even hardly breathe. And I mean, that's the problem. And so once we encapsulate that and we shut off all those air penetrations, then that temperature comes way down in the summer. And so in the wintertime, you don't lose your heat out the top. Summertime, you keep your cool where it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Well, I built my house in 98, and I wish I wish you'd have been doing it then because I've got bad insulation in my attic.
Mm-hmm.
And which mine's in an A-frame, so to put it in, I've got to tear all the sheetrock out.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm probably going to do that. I mean, it's coming to the point that I'm going to do some remodel. I'm going to pull it out and have you come spray foam it because I lose so much heat or so much cooling and heat.
You do, because you got to think about it. It doesn't matter how much batt insulation you put in there. They could tell you, I've got an R40, but your air penetrations are not sealed up. Air still goes through that. And not only that, but it still breaks down and you still get that mold and that mildew and that allergy, the allergens that come through your vents and things like that. And, it just causes problems for a lifetime where I like to tell people, the old school insulation, it was good in its day, but for me, that's a Band-Aid and, spray foam insulation is an actual cure.
Well, and you can tell, I tell people all the time, we've made advances as builders and contractors and stuff on this material. I mean, used to rock wool was the number one leading insulation.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's illegal. I mean, because it's got all the bad stuff in it. And they used asbestos for building materials. They got away from it. There's materials that we find out that's better, superior, more, health conscious and does more efficiency, just like PEX. I mean, PEX is a real good product. It keeps any, if you take a copper pipe and look in the side of it after you've cut it out, it's got green
Yep.
stuff in it.
Mm-hmm.
You take a PEX line that's been in for 10 years, it's still the same. It looks the same.
Exactly.
And, that's just like spray foam. I mean, bat insulation had its time.
It did.
But I think we're to the point as, if you can and you're building a new home, I think spray foam's the way to go. I just do.
And I do too. And I have a lot of builders that, have that same ideology. But, I have a lot of people, just your average Joe out there that, that can't keep up with the energy bills. And, we do more average Joe type people than we do builders, honestly. And, we get a lot of special jobs that other companies won't do, like I was talking about. Like, I guess 2 weeks ago, we went out and a man wanted to turn an old school bus into a living space.
Yeah.
For an RV. And
I've seen a bunch of people do that.
We went in there, and I got it on our Facebook, but we took some closed cell spray foam and we spray foamed it out for him. And then he put, studded it out and everything,
right,
and put a finish wall on it. And now he's got an RV for a fraction of the cost.
And that's another thing. If you get a chance, go to Hometown Spray Foam's Facebook and look at their pictures. You want to talk about neat jobs. When they leave, that's one thing I've got to say. Y'all leave the job neat as you found it. Maybe even neater. Because y'all went into some of mine, there's still some dust on the floor. When y'all left, y'all swept, it was nothing dusty no more.
Well, because, I tell my guys that's what separates us from the rest. I mean, a lot of times I've had builders come to me and say, hey, the reason I called you is because my last spray foam guy, I had overspray on everything. I had to spend a day going back in there and cleaning off foam and picking it up out of the floors. And I tell my guys when they prep a job, pretend like they're painting a car. You prep those windows, you prep those doors, and when you leave it cleaner than when you came.
Yeah.
And
I'm the same way with my guys. My guys all the time, they're like, boy, you're so anal about this cleaning up. I'm like, well, the reason I am is because it reflects my name's on, Mitchell's Plumbing. My name's up there.
Yeah.
When they say Mitchell's Plumbing done this job, they're not talking about Channing, Seth, Zach, the guys that work for me, James, Spencer. They're talking about me.
Yep.
And I want my name and I want my jobs to be kept clean. And a lot of times people expect you to. I tell my guys all the time, we're in an area right now in an economic area that people are paying a lot of money for their products right now.
Yes.
So they expect a lot of service for that product. So a little extra service don't cost us a lot, and it separates us from
the majority.
Right.
And we've enjoyed working for you, and you refer a lot of business our way. And I always tell people what people don't realize about Daniel Mitchell is when that boy was 4 or 5 years old, he was going out on service calls with his father doing plumbing. And I tell people often, not trying to get off subject, but you've got to have more knowledge. You've got to be the most knowledgeable plumber in the whole South because you've been doing it all your life.
Well, I tell my guys all the time, they'll be like, how did you know that? Mm-hmm. Well, I've been doing it so long, it's just second nature. Yeah. I mean, there's probably people like your dad. Mm-hmm. I bet your dad could tell you, I bet he could sit in his living room and tell you how to put up siding on a house.
He can.
Or, and stuff like that. I mean, I know he's been doing it forever. It's like my dad's been doing it forever, but I was talking to Daddy the other day about Walter, and I was telling him, it makes me sad because I've come up working with all these people, and they're all starting to slow down. Daddy, Daddy's in a wheelchair now. Now Walter, he's slowing down. These was giants in my time.
Yep, sure.
To me, they were the superheroes. They was who I wanted to be like. Yeah. Now I get kind of sad for them, but they're still just as happy as they ever was.
They are, but at the same time, yourself as well as myself, we get to carry on that legacy.
Right.
All the years of hard work that your family put in, all the years of hard work that my father put in, breaking his back out there. Yeah. Now we can continue that. And then we don't have to do near as hard work as what they did.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I built off the foundation my daddy left me.
You do. They built a heck of a foundation for us to work off of. And I do commend them for that.
Yeah. Getting back on the spray foam subject, if you have a older home,
Yep.
will you go in and redo the insulation in the attic of them, or is that is that an option?
No, we do. I'd say probably half the jobs that we do are older homes. We've done homes. One of them up in St. Elmo, I think it was built like 1865, 1870. And so someone from out of town came in and stripped it out and didn't know how much work was there to do. You know, you don't realize that.
Yeah.
But the wood was great, but we insulated that home, you know, and now it's got, you know, the best of spray foam insulation in it. So, you know, it doesn't matter what type of structure you got. It can be metal, it can be brick, you know, it doesn't matter what we're spraying to. We've got a foam to cover it.
Yeah. I seen y'all done a carport, one of those carports like you buy at Hammond Jones or Home Depot or something like that. Y'all went in and spray foamed the inside of it after they built it.
And I'll tell you the reason why. It was an elderly man, and he takes his car out about once or twice a week, and he wants it clean. And so that building, number one, when you walk out in the summer, that carport felt like a microwave because of that heat coming down through it. But it had 2 or 3 little leaks that he could not get fixed. And so his shiny car would have water leaks on it because when it rained, it would drip down in.
Oh, I got you.
So what we did is we went up in there and closed off those holes and then insulated that with closed cell spray foam insulation. Man called me back next day and he said, man, I've never felt it so cool under there, and now my cars can stay clean. And he said, I'm happy. I appreciate your work. And so that's the benefit of doing little jobs like that.
Yeah, it's funny how good insulation does. That's like down here. There's no air down here at all.
Yeah, right.
And it's probably what in here 70, 72.
Yeah.
I mean, it's comfortable, I think.
Yeah.
But I work out in the heat. Yeah. But this is concrete. I mean, it's 2 foot wide, thick walls and stuff like that. And that's the same theory. You get that kind of density with the spray foam.
Yeah,
correct?
100%. And, you know, like I said, we do a lot of metal buildings as well. So, you know, in the South, you got a lot of guys that'll go out and get a metal building so they can put a shop in their backyard.
Right.
So they can work on cars or cabinets or whatever their hobby
or their Jeeps.
Yeah.
That's
so,
a big thing around here.
you know, when you're in there in the summer, it don't matter how big a fan you got. It's like an oven in there. You think about that metal amplifying that heat. And so once we go in there, we just close it off and we put that closed cell insulation to it. And next thing you know, they got a cool, nice place to work.
Yeah. Well, I'm not as versed on the insulation here. They're hearing us talk about closed cell and open cell.
Okay.
You want to tell the audience what the difference is?
Yeah, let me tell you the difference in layman's term. Make it real simple. So when we go into a house, if we see that we're spraying to a wooden surface, okay, your typical house, whether it be walls or whether it be roof line, we're going to use an open cell spray foam. Your open cell spray foam is it's a thicker product, but it's more spongy. Okay. So it provides you the insulation, protection, but at the same time, it also reduces noise. So we can put up interior walls and make soundproof walls with open cell. However, you can't use open cell on like a metal surface or concrete that's, you know, non-conditioned, because that metal and that concrete over time could sweat. Well, that open cell does not control that condensation or that sweat, whereas the closed cell does. So imagine your open cell being used on anything wooden, you know, to insulate, and your closed cell being used for metal or block or something that's going to have a moisture control problem.
Right.
In the closed cell, you have an average of about 1.5 inches, 2 inches when you spray it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a lot higher R value per inch, but you've got to have it. And also, when you get those metal buildings these days, some of them, you know, the structures are a little shaky, you know, depending on where you get it. So once you put that closed cell to that metal, it strengthens, gives it, you know, the integrity of that building as well.
Yeah.
So just imagine using closed cell for metal and block in crawl spaces, places you have moisture control problems. open cell for everything else.
Well, me and you, another thing I wanted to touch on while we was talking, me and you've experienced this together.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you spray what, 3.5, 4 inches?
We do that, average, we do 3.5 on walls.
Yeah. Me and you had a customer that wanted 6 inches.
Yep. Full fill and shave's what that's called.
Yeah. Is that more efficient, or is that a waste of product?
So I'm all about saving people money.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I could sit here and tell you that 6 inches is going to be a lot better. And it'd be better for my business because I make more money doing it. However,
you're going to sell 2 at a time with the material.
If you put 3.5 inches of a good open cell spray foam in that wall, in my opinion, it's sealed off at that point. That little space that's left, if you've got 2x6, 2x6 is up, that little space left, that's not going to matter. I mean, if you want to go overboard, if you've got the money to spend, it'll add a little to it. But if you just go with 3.5 inches on your standard 2x4, or even if you've got a 2x6 or a 2x8, if you go with 3.5 on a wall, you're going to have plenty of protection. You don't need to go a full fill and shave. And on every roof line that we do, attic space, we go up in there on that open cell, we do a 6 inch average. And that's all you need. We have a lot of customers that have come in and they'll say, well, I'm thinking about getting 8 to 10 inches up there. We'll do that all day long, but I tell my customers, I'm pretty honest with them, and I tell them, hey, you don't need it.
Right.
You just don't need it. Unless you've just got money you want to throw away, 3.5 on your walls is standard, and 6 on that roof line is standard, and that does just fine. If you're doing closed cell, it's a 2 inch average, whether it's roof line or whether it's crawl space or walls or whatever.
Yeah.
And 99% of people don't want closed cell on a wooden surface, and there's many reasons you shouldn't do that. But some people are just hard-headed and want to waste money, and so I'm all about educating my customers and trying to save them as much money as possible, because I'm all about building relationships and making friends everywhere I go.
Exactly. That's why we're sitting here. And that's why I asked you the question, is because I want, I'm actually, when I'm talking and asking these questions, I'm trying to talk to my audience out there that's probably young, because a lot of young people build houses and they're starting out. I've got a daughter and a son-in-law that's fixing to build their house, and I try to ask questions that I know they've asked me, that way they can build an efficient, nice home that's going to last them, and they don't waste no money, like, more insulation they don't need, or going with bad insulation and getting in the house and then having a $600 a month power bill, stuff like that. That's like anybody that asks me right now, if you've got available gas, propane or natural, you won't go with a tankless water heater right now. Now they ain't come out with a good electric yet. They've got a couple that's up and coming, but the electrics are still having a little bit of growing pains. Right. But as far as natural gas or propane, tankless water heaters are far superior, and it's just like bat versus foam. They're far superior. They do cost a little bit more. The tankless water heaters cost a little bit more, but they've got 10-year warranties. They got lifetime warranty on some of the heat exchangers. Yep. So you get that extra value down the road.
You've got that insurance,
right?
The same way you do with your health and life insurance. Spray foam provides you insurance for the long haul,
right?
And it also increases the value of your home,
right?
It's a win-win across the board.
Well, you're like you've got a product kind of like we've got. You can't put too much plumbing in a house, or you can, but you know what I'm saying. Plumbing. Anytime you renovate a bathroom, renovate a kitchen, anytime you got a nice bathroom, it adds value to the home.
Yeah.
Anytime you add spray foam to that home, I feel like it adds value, because if I had 2 homes, 2 houses, and one of them had spray foam in it, and one of them had bad insulation in it, and I could buy them for close to the same money.
Yep.
I'm going to buy the one with spray foam in it.
Me too, all day long.
Because I know my utility bills are going to be substantially lower.
That, as well as your comfort levels.
Yeah, I'm all about comfort.
Yeah. And so, that's what we try to do. We try to save people money. And I often tell people, I'm going to beat 99% of everybody's prices in the area. And if somebody comes in lower than me, let me know, and I'll hit it at 10% right off the bat, beat them, on the spot.
Right.
And I do that if it's a reasonable offer, I don't want something handwritten and you hand it to me, but I will beat everybody's prices and just to help the community.
And also, we said it before, we was talking about it, me and you was talking about an issue that I had seen on one of the forums that I follow.
Yeah.
That they didn't have the ratio right on the mixture. There may be some guys out there that's going to give you a better price that don't know what they're doing.
Well, they do that. You're right, because it's the same as plumbing or anything. You have some guy out there that minimal experience. He looks at it and he says, "Man, I can get rich doing that."
Right.
And so they come in there and they think they know what they're doing. They'll get it to stick to the walls. And maybe it looks okay, but then 6 months later, it's turning loose and falling down, and you've got your issues. And in some companies, from month to month, they buy, whatever foam's on sale, and they don't know where it comes from. It could come from China. And the problem with that is it could be a very cheap chemical. It could be polluted, and that creates issues right off the bat. Whereas with us, we use a specific foam every job. I will not use any other foam. It's one of the oldest companies in the nation that makes this foam. One of the most expensive foams out there. I do not pass that on to the customer. I eat that because it makes it easier for my guys to spray, and I can put my name behind it and stand behind it, and it protects my machinery because the machinery that I use is so expensive. I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
But it protects it.
And I reckon that's because I know that stuff's expensive because some of the stuff that we use is astronomical compared to what we get.
Exactly.
I can hold $5,000-$6,000 in my hand.
In your hand,
and not being dollar bills. I'm talking about a part, or a piece of a tool or something like that. But as you were saying that, I get to thinking about that. My dad was like that, and I'm like that. He always used a certain brand of pipe. Mm-hmm. Because that pipe, and it was Charlotte pipe, made in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep.
It was always the best pipe. It's got the best life longevity, and they've been around forever. Their fittings got good deep sockets on them, and it's more expensive. Yes. But we stayed competitive, and we stayed in the same price range as everybody. But we used a little bit better pipe.
Yep.
But there's houses that we plumbed, and you can go under, and the pipes are still just as straight as they was when I was in high school. 100%. You go under some of them, and they look like this right here. And I'm not saying the plumbers done it out of knowing they was going to do it.
No.
It's just they done it because that pipe was cheaper that week.
Yeah.
And as well as I do, there's salesmen come around and says, "Hey, I can sell you that foam half price in this brand, or pipe half price in this brand." So if you're comfortable with a product, unless they come out with something and they can prove their product to me. I have been, when PEX first come out, you couldn't run me fast enough to give me a PEX, old PEX.
Yeah.
I was like, that's that stuff they put in mobile homes. It's not going to be no good, blah, blah, blah. So they come out and we done one, and PEX is a good product, but there's crimp PEX, B-PEX, and Apex.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we use Apex expansion.
Right.
And that's all we use, because that's the better product. It's a little bit more expensive than the crimp PEX. Right. It's got a better flow on it and stuff like that. So it's just like your foam. We have to stay competitive with everybody, but I want to put that product in my houses that I'm building and selling and plumbing and stuff like that. That way, down the road, they've still got a good product. They say, well, Hometown Spray Foam foamed this thing, and Mitchell's Plumbing plumbed it, and my utility bills are cheap, and I've never had a leak.
And that's the reputation you want to get. We've got building inspectors that have walked in before and look at our foam and look at our guys. "Oh, y'all did it. You're good to go." And the owner say, "What? We're good to go?" "Yeah, you can put sheetrock on it because every job these guys do, passes inspection. It's good to go." And it's also one big thing though is when we're working with builders is, that's the reason we like working with you. And I often wonder, does the majority of people in the area know that you are an actual general contractor and you're building homes out there as well as you're plumbing?
I don't advertise it.
Right.
Because I don't want to build for everybody.
Right.
I just because I'm like you. I'm not charging what some of the other general contractors are charging. So I would rather, I'm more, I build my own houses and sell them. I build, but if you come to me and say, hey, I want you to build me a house, I'll build you a house. But, I'm not a cost plus builder. Let's build this thing. What's your budget? We're going to hit your budget and stuff like that. But it's like anything else. There's headaches with the more you do and stuff like that. And I got in with a barndominium company, and that was it started off good, but it got to where it was too much. I think it was customer. We had a couple of bad eggs in the batch there. Yeah, I mean that one that the one I'm talking about. This has been a headache. I mean,
no, I know, but the point is the reason I asked that because your builds, when we come in doing spray foam, we ask you certain things to take care of and stuff, but you're always on point. When we know if we're coming to do a job for you, we can go in there and spray that job and get out, and that's kind of how we maximize our profit.
Right.
The faster we get done, the more we can make because, we're at already low profit margins anyway. So it's important.
I think that from being a subcontractor to contractor so long, I know what it's like to go out to plumb a house and the shower not be framed or this, and you have to make 2 or 3 trips because every trip you make with that truck is a cost out of your pocket. Mm-hmm. And you can't bill it back to they're not going to pay it. They're not going to pay a trip charge. I mean, they're just not. But I think we're running down to time, man. Okay. I tell you, I think we put some good product, some good quality content out there about the product. I think if you're building a house, get on here, check this podcast out at Plum Delusional podcast it's on Spotify. All the main platforms. Mm-hmm. And I mean, really take into consideration your insulation before you build your home and get a hold of Mac and let him come out there. I'm sure he'll come out there, give you a consult and give you a price. I mean, he's never charged me for a bid, so I'd say he won't charge y'all for one.
Sometimes I drive 2 hours to give an estimate. I never hear nothing back from him, but I go out and I meet every customer and I make those personal relationships.
Well, so we appreciate you being here, Mac. You want to tell everybody the name of your company and how to get a hold of you?
Hometown Spray Foam. You can go on Facebook. We're on there as Hometown Spray Foam, Instagram, TikTok. You can go to www.hometownsprayfoam.net and you can see our rigs and our trucks all over the place. Stop our guys at any time, ask for our card, get our number off the side of their truck. Call us up. We're going to beat anybody's prices and we're going to stand behind our work because we are a local crew that does local work, and we're all about supporting local-owned businesses.
And we appreciate that. Yeah. And we thank you. That's Plum Delusional this time, and we'll see you next time. That was a good one.